All right, so who is winning the Samvidhan face-off in Parliament? Let's cut across to our guest this evening. Joining me, Rajat Sethi, political commentator, Dr. Shama Mohammed, national spokesperson, Indian National Congress, Tom Wadakan, national spokesperson, Bharatiya Janata Party. I want to cut across first to Tom Wadakan. Tom Wadakan, very pointedly, Mr. Kharge today made a statement which seemed to suggest that there was an attempt to falsify claims on the First Amendment. Mr. Kharge said the First Amendment was clearly carried out not by Nehru or the Congress, but by the Constituent Assembly, which even comprised by the likes of Shama Prasad Mukherjee, and was undertaken to provide reservation to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. And there was an attempt on the floor of the House by the Prime Minister to mislead the people.
Well, I must thank the Congress party for having brought the Constitution into focus. They have achieved what probably is what you call in terms a hate wicket. In fact, the entire background has been brought before this nation. A lot of issues. An unelected Prime Minister was in power. What he did from the year 1940 and what he did to the freedom of speech is on record. Nirmala Sitaramji has mentioned, I don't want to repeat it. From 1949, this operation has started. They talk about freedom of speech, and every time they go about arresting people.
Okay.
It started with Sultanpuri ji, Balram Sani, then you had the biographer of Nehru, book got banned, Michael Edward, Kursi Kissa Ka banned movie, then you name it, it's going on and on and on. So, who has been exposed? Technicalities may be there, that the Constitutional Assembly was responsible for the First Amendment, or the Constitution Assembly, if they were so much proactive on this, they would have corrected course of action. There would have been corrections immediately. But no, this is an afterthought of Kharge ji to now create an impression that this was all done under the view of the Constitution Assembly. He has quoted Sardar Patel ji out of context and tried to make us believe that it was also that Sardar Patel ji was also responsible, and his support for the issues involved at that time was there. So this is all very clever, operations run by Kharge. But what has happened?
That letter, the end result? But Tom Wadakan, as I bring in the Congress counterpart, I'll ask you another rebuttal, and we'll bring in Ashutosh. I think we don't have Shama right now. Is that the letter that Sardar Patel wrote to Nehru is on record, sir. It dates the 3rd July 1950, and there's a clear suggestion to Nehru at that point of time that the constitutional amendment was the only remedy for the problem to provide reservation. Now, all of this is on record.
This is not about reservation. This is about freedom of speech. That is the confusion that's being worked out. There are two separate things. This was not an issue contested about reservation.
So you're saying the Constituent Assembly at the time, which included the likes of Shama Prasad Mukherjee, did not veto it? What are you trying to suggest?
I'm trying to suggest there are two different issues. You can't mix up reservation issue with this. This was about freedom of speech and the first ordinance that came through. And that was the creation of who? Pandit Nehru. And then,
Ashutosh, okay, so hold on to your thought. I'll come right back to you. Let's go one by one. We'll come right back to you while we wait for Shama. But Ashutosh, for somebody who studied politics, Tom Wadakan seems to suggest that Mr. Kharge today misinterpreted on how the First Amendment was carried out and bought in, and there was a clear suggestion by Mr. Wadakan that he completely misrepresented on what really happened in history.
I can only laugh at by the arguments which has been made. I can only laugh. If the Constituent Assembly was the supreme body which has created the Constitution. And the first amendment which was brought in was by the Constituent Assembly itself, because the parliament election didn't happen at that point of time. So is it an attempt by the BJP, or is it an attempt by the entire brass of the right wing to malign the dignity and the greatness of the Constituent Assembly, which has given one of the greatest constitutions this country had? And who were the member of this Constituent Assembly? Sardar Patel, Jawaharlal Nehru, Baba Saheb Ambedkar, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. So this is a kind of canard which has been spread to. You want to discredit Nehru? Please discredit Nehru. You want to criticize Nehru? Please criticize Nehru. That's how the history moves. Because nobody is above criticism and nobody is above any kind of inquiry by the history. But if somebody is maligning, trying to malign the entire Constituent Assembly, I can only laugh at nothing else. Point number 2, the First Amendment. What was the First Amendment? Preeti, the First Amendment was to bring in the reasonable restriction. About what? About the freedom of expression. Can somebody be... The Constituent Assembly realized that this absolute freedom of expression means that anybody can go and spread a kind of hatred against other community, or anybody can go and abuse in all kinds. Can that be allowed? No, I want to know if that is the case.
Okay.
Then Mr. Narendra Modi, let me complete. Then Narendra Modi government should bring out another amendment and should finish the First Amendment which was brought in by the Nehru government. So why the Modi government is not doing it? The third thing which has been told was, it was not the Congress party which has elected Nehru. It was Mahatma Gandhi. He put his foot down that Jawaharlal Nehru will be the first prime minister. So is BJP trying to malign Mahatma Gandhi? That we need a clarification.
I want to bring in Shama. I think we have her back. We have Shama Mohammed back into the debate. And Dr. Shama Mohammed, you also had Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman today, and she made a lot of points which were very factual, where she cited various amendments, not just the 42nd Amendment, which were brought in not to strengthen democracy, but possibly, as per what Nirmala Sitharaman said, to quote her, protect those in power and strengthen the hands of one family. And all of these amendments which were brought in when the Congress was there did not pass the 4 criterias of economic good, social intent, due process, or constitutional spirit, ma'am.
Okay, so first and foremost, one of the biggest liars I have known is Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman. So I'm going to start from there. Before I go into the constitution debate, I have a question for Mr. Vadakan. Why on Vijay Divas, the photograph where the Pakistani army surrenders to the Indian army, one of the greatest moments in our history, with 90,000 people surrendering, taken out of the army chief's office. Now we know who stands with Pakistan. The Bharatiya Janata Party stands with Pakistan, because you need to answer why such a great day like Vijay Divas has been destroyed by a party which hoisted our national flag 52 years after independence. Again, who is Deshdrohi? You people, the Bharatiya Janata Party, because we have hoisted the flag. We were in the freedom struggle, and you have the audacity to question. I was listening to Nirmala Sitharaman. She brought in a very important point where she says, what did they do for women's reservation? I think she does not put in facts. 33% reservation was brought to the corporation councils under whom? Under Rajiv Gandhi. Let's not forget that. They came to power in 2014.
Okay.
They passed a bill. Let me finish. They passed a bill last year with caveats of they should be the caste, they should be census and delimitation. So we don't know when this bill is going, when we are going to get this reservation of 33% for women in Lok Sabha and the Vidhan Sabha, Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha. We don't know. So she can talk about all these sort of lies. At least there were amendments, constitutional. Okay. What is happening now? 1 minute. Electoral bonds, unconstitutional, told by the Supreme Court of India. Sai Baba in jail for 10 years without evidence. Stan Swami not given a straw, a priest. Who is doing all this? Who is
10 seconds, ma'am. I need to move on.
So this is unconstitutional. And wait, Tom Vadakan needs to answer why that photograph was removed on Vijay Divas.
All right, I'll come back to Tom Vadakan. I want to bring in Rajat Sethi into this conversation. Rajat Sethi, a lot of what we've heard on the floor of the parliament invokes the past. You're caught somewhere between the First and the 42nd Amendment. The Congress seems to suggest, okay, whatever happened in the past is past. You need to look ahead, see how Manipur is being handled and the current context. But do you think the current context cannot really stand until and unless the past is invoked?
Yes and no. First of all, we are in the 75th year. So when you're commemorating an event, you need to also talk about what went in, what was correct, what was not correct. The 42nd Amendment Act was actually brought in by some of the provisions of the Constitution. That doesn't make it sacrosanct. That doesn't, it naturally doesn't become full of morals. The issues that were there during the emergency remain the biggest possible blot on our democracy and on our constitution, no matter what.
Ma'am, please allow him to speak. I'll come back to you for a rebuttal. Go ahead, Mr. Sethi.
First Amendment as well, it was brought in when Prime Minister Nehru, he was also the Prime Minister then, though the Lok Sabha election in 1952 happened after that, but nonetheless, he was at the helm of the affairs. When he was at the helm of the affairs, he was the one who moved that bill for the First Amendment. In 1949, the Majru Sultanpuri case that happened under his watch. Okay, so you cannot obliterate the fact that Prime Minister Nehru, if he was such a beacon of inspiration for free speech, why did he not step in at that moment and ensure that nobody is actually arrested just for expressing his or ideas? Why was he not taking a higher moral pedestal then? The problem is, there were certain issues where he was not an absolutist, and there is no doubt about it. And if the Congress party today wants to go back to the Nehruvian days and the golden Nehruvian days, according to them, they will have to address this strong blot that is there on his personality.
Okay.
And this was not a blip. It carried on for decades. That same ethos carried on by the Congress party for decades, culminating at the emergency.
All right. I'm short on time today, so I'm going to give all our panelists 1 minute each. Please honor that. Mr. Vadakan, questions were posed by Dr. Mohammed, where, I'm sure you heard her submissions. Please go ahead. Make your point, sir.
Why did you remove it? Answer that.
Mr. Vadakan, 1 minute. Go ahead, sir. Make your point.
That question will be answered by the army. It is not for the political party to answer that question. The army will come out.
Can I just get Mr. Vadakan?
Now, let me complete this. Rahul Kanwal has been boycotted by the Congress party. Do you accept it? Do you accept this part of freedom of speech? This channel which I'm sitting, he's an anchor who's been expressing his views, and he has been boycotted by the Congress party. Answer that. Why don't you answer that question? You are here on this channel with another anchor, but why is Rahul Kanwal out?
But sir, that's not the point of debate. One second. Dr. Tom Vadakan, you have...
Our question on the army can
is
be
that
asked.
okay? You have 30 seconds, sir. Is this the submission you want to make? Quickly make it. 30 seconds,
yes,
sir.
My question is, why has Rahul Kanwal been boycotted? Is this part of freedom of speech?
We are talking about the constitution debate in Parliament, Mr. Vadakan.
Yeah, I'm also asking about the same party that ruled this country for 60 years.
Okay. All right. Okay. 1 second. Can I please cut across right now to Dr. Shamma Mohammed? You have 1 minute, ma'am. Yeah. Please make your submission.
So I just want to say Narendra Modi, to Rajat, was there in 1947. We would have had a civil war if the RSS was there. A nation in debt. To bring the nation up, he had to do a lot, bring about social reforms, a lot of economic reforms. That is what Nehru did. And bringing universal adult franchise, which no other country could have done at that point in time, even America and Australia has not done. He mentioned emergency, and we have admitted, we have regretted it. But tell me, what did Narendra Modi do in 2002? And after that, he still abuses Muslims. We had 1984, we have apologized for it, we have uplifted the Sikhs. Why is Mr. Modi abusing the Muslims? Day in and day out. Behas leke denge Musalmanon ko. Aapke Mangalsutra leke denge Musalmanon ko.
10 seconds, ma'am.
Eid mein bijli honge, Diwali mein nahi hoga.
All right. Rajat Sethi, 1 minute, please make your submission, ma'am.
The history of India. Answer that.
Forced to make a hard cut. Rajat Sethi, 1 minute. Make your point.
Talk about what he's
Rajat
done for the
Sethi,
last
may
10
I
years.
just get Rajat Sethi?
Shameless Prime Minister of India.
Can I just
Shameless
get
Prime Minister.
Rajat Sethi? 1 second. Can I just get Rajat Sethi? I'm speaking to the PCR. Go ahead, Rajat Sethi. Make your point.
Preeti, you made an important point that should we always live in the past? The answer is no. We have huge challenges before our country and we need to decisively move forward. There have been issues, there have been abuse of power by the Congress party. We need to acknowledge that. And those have to remain as a clear marker, even for the BJP, that you should not fall into the lure for absolutist politics at all. And I believe this is why the 75th year commemoration and exchange of ideas by all the parliamentarians was needed, so that nobody gets onto that slippery slope where you start taking constitutional values for granted the way Congress party did for decades after decades.
All right. Ashutosh, 1 minute, sir. Please wrap your submissions in that. Ashutosh, can you hear me? You're on mute, sir.
So I think, Preeti, it's heartening to listen to the voices from the right, which had not accepted Constitution, which has poured scorn on the Constitution, rejected the Constitution, and abused the Constitution, and burned the effigy of Baba Saheb Ambedkar and others when the Constitution was being made. It's heartening that after 75 years, they have realized their mistake. They're accepting and swearing by the Constitution. I think it's a great victory for the Constitution and those who made the Constitution, especially Tom
Okay, sir. That's all the time that I have for now. I apologize. I need to go in for a hard cut. I appreciate all four of you for joining us on this debate. Thank you for watching. We're going to leave it at that.